So in this video series, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to build a SharePoint 2016 dev environment. You could use this environment for something other than SharePoint too. If you didn't want to do the SharePoint part of it, you could basically build it up to the point where you've got IIS installed, or you could build it up to where you just have the servers installed in your domain and then start your development from that point. This environment's going to use the AutoSP installer to install SharePoint. It's going to be a 2-server farm. We're going to use the technology that came out in November 2016 to create a 2-server min-roll farm, which basically means we won't need 4 servers to run all of the minimum role technology. And we'll get into that more a little bit later. So basically in the book, Building a SharePoint Home Lab, there's some of the stuff that's in this video. Now the book has a lot more detailed steps than what we're going to do here, obviously because we're in a video and videos take up a lot of space, and so I would highly recommend getting that book if any of this seems kind of foreign to you. The book assumes basically no knowledge of any of this, and it goes through all the various steps. We might not see all the various steps in this video series, basically because the video series is not derived from the book. The book is more so derived from the video, even though the video came later. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. And then Troubleshooting SharePoint is a great book to read after you've built your lab and you're trying to find out issues, or maybe you already have SharePoint and you want to just figure out what's going on inside the SharePoint. So the prerequisite knowledge for this is basically depends on the way you look at it. Pretty much you don't need any. So you basically just need to know the steps and follow it. Now you might not know why or whatever, and that can all come later, but to get up and get going quickly, this video is going to be a great help for that one. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the virtual machines, and then after we do that, we're going to use Hyper-V machines, and then after we do that, we're going to create the domain and build all the service accounts that we need, and then obviously we'll join the servers into the domain. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get going on the demo. Now you might notice here the Hyper-V role is unchecked. So in your home lab, in the book you'll see how to turn that on and everything. I've already got that turned on. I'm not going to go ahead and go over that and how to get that all set up, but the book has great step-by-step instructions on getting that running. Okay, let's get into the demo. I'm using this program called KeyPass, and I have a little file, KDBX file called keys. You can call it whatever you want to. I use that so we can create these shortcuts to RDP connections. Now, there's already a few farms set up on this PowerEdge. What we're going to do is we're just going to connect into the PowerEdge right now, and then we'll begin with creating the first VMs. So it's going to open up a little shortcut RDP connection. I'll click that. That'll enter my password. And then what I have is over on another screen here, I've got the PowerEdge. So we're not going to be using this domain controller. We're actually going to be making a new one. So we've got one already for the Contoso domain and all these various machines in there. I'm just going to go ahead and shut these down because I don't have enough memory on this guy to run all of these the way I want to. So first thing I'm going to do to power up this 2013 farm is I'm just going to come in here. And really the best way to do it would be to log into it and shut it down from inside the machine. So let's just connect into it. And we'll come in here. Come in and enter this information. This is why I like to use the KeyPass, because I don't have to type this stuff that way. So here I come, I'm logging into this machine. I'm shutting it down because I'm going to be making a new one. Okay, a bunch of red on that guy too. That looked ugly. All right, that's happening. Let's come into the cache server, do the same thing. And all right. Hello. Okay. And we'll shut this guy off. And finally, we'll come in here and we'll turn off this SQL server. We're also not going to use those nasty looking names either. We're going to use something that's, well, a little bit more friendly, user friendly. So it's still trying to connect to this guy, huh? What's up with that? So take that a second. Connect. Interesting. Wonder what could be going on here. Let's come down to the networking tab, and we look like we're connected. So that's not the issue. Let's go ahead and try it again now. It's having a hard time there. Could be because we're powering those other two machines off as to why that's the case. So we're just going to pause for a minute and we'll let those machines shut down, and then we'll turn off the SQL. I'll start the video back up once those other machines are off. Okay, so we can see that those two machines are turned off. Let's go ahead and try to turn off this SQL server now and see how we do. We'll go ahead and connect to it, and there we go. See, that's probably what the problem was. And yeah, let's just turn this guy off. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create some machines. So just go new virtual machine. We're going to go ahead and go new next. This is going to be the domain controller, so I'm just going to call it DC2. I'm going to store it in this location here. Next. I'm going to do generation 2 machine. There's a little bit more about that in the book. Startup memory for this guy. I'm just going to go with the default 512, and we're going to click next. And we'll make sure it's connected. And we're going to leave that alone. Next, and then the operating system, we've got some operating systems on this machine. We're going to use server 2012. And then we're going to click next and finish. And then we're just going to repeat that process with a little bit different memory allocations for the different machines. For example, on the 2013 or 2016 app server, I'm going to use, let's see, depends on your host, obviously, how much memory you have available. I'm probably going to go with the same amount I went for this one, and I'm going to do the same thing on these other guys. Okay, so now we've got the machines ready for the domain. We have them created. The raw VMs are there. We've made this VM and these three. These are the specifications that we used for our CPU and memory. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the domain controller. I'm just going to turn it on, and that's going to go ahead and get it started. Then I'm going to connect to it, and you can see it's saying press any key to boot from CD, so I'm going to press the N key, and it doesn't look like it's working, it's failing. This happens a lot. So we just need to wait for that to take its course. And part of the reason that that's doing that is because when I created the machine, I forgot to enable the guest services. So let me just shut this down. And it's telling me, okay, error encountered. Turn it off. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and go to the settings really quick. And down here, I'm going to put these integration guest services in there. Click apply. I'm just going to do that on the rest of the machines too. And there we go. And let's get that turned on on all of them. There we go. Okay. So I'm connecting to it. I'm going to start it, and then hit the enter key. And I'm going to go ahead and insert the Windows installation disk. It says, so there isn't enough memory available to create a RAM disk device. Interesting. So let's see, media, it's there. So let's go ahead and enter. And we're just going to go ahead and enter again. And we're getting the same problem. So it looks like we're probably going to need to turn off some more of these VMs that are on this server. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this down and come in here on these guys. And we're going to turn off this 2016 farm. So I'm going to connect into it and turn it off like I did on the other ones. So we're getting a memory, or some sort of a memory issue on this new domain controller that we're about to create. So what we're going to do is come in here and we're just going to adjust this memory to about 2 gigs. Hopefully that should be good enough for it. We're going to keep it static so it's not going to be fluctuating. And then we're going to go click OK. And now we'll connect into it and hopefully get it started here. Let's see. The boot failed message is normal. Eventually it'll tell us to retry again by hitting any key. And then we'll hit the any key and hopefully we won't get that RAM disk message. The dreaded RAM disk. Another thing we need to do is we need to make sure we have a disk inserted. So at some point I must have taken the disk out. So I'm going to go ahead and put the disk back in. And hopefully that's what we need to do here now. With the increase in memory and then the disk in there, we should hopefully get something to happen here. Let's just take a look and see here. I'm going to pause one more time. Okay, so it's asking us to press any key to retry the boot sequence. So we're going to press any key. And then we're going to press any key again. And there we go. So the problem was we didn't have enough memory on that server. We had the 512 megabytes, which wasn't enough for the server to load. So essentially that's the start of getting the operating system installed. What we're going to do now is come over to these other servers and hopefully get them started up and doing the same thing. Doesn't really matter what order you do them in, so I'm just going to go ahead and connect to this one. And get these guys going up here. And I'm going to turn this one on. We'll do the same thing on the other two. And just click in there and get it going. And that's why you want that guest services turned on, otherwise it's not very friendly to the mouse when you're clicking. Okay, I'm going to pause the video one more time. And what will happen is after the files load, you'll come to this screen, so adjust it accordingly, and then click install. These servers over here have more memory in them. So this is where the product key gets entered in. I'm just going to pause the video while I enter this key and click next. So after you enter the product key and click next, you get this screen. We're going to use a graphical user interface for our servers, so we're going to just do that and click next. Accept the terms. Now we don't have anything that we're upgrading, so we're going to go with a custom install. And we only have one disk, so that's what we're going to choose. And that's really it to getting starting to get the operating system installed. In the next video or the next demo, we'll go over configuring the domain controller. Oh, and you need to repeat those processes on the other machines. So we got past that little memory issue there with not enough memory, and you can see the domain controller is starting to load up the Windows files, as are the other machines that we're making today. So now is really a good time to head off to the store, whatnot. I am not going to record the video for this entire process. It will take a while with a small small amount of memory that we've got and the small CPUs on these servers. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause. We'll catch it back up after the server is ready for us to log in for that first administrative login. So when the window finishes, or actually the window, when the OS install finishes, you're going to be presented with this screen here. This account on the domain controller, the administrator, local administrator account, the password you specify here is also going to be the password for the domain admin or the enterprise admin after you create the domain. So I'm just going to enter that in here. Right click in here and do that one more time. In a production system, you'd probably be pasting that in there. It'd probably be something a lot more complicated than what I'm using, but you get the idea. Once you've installed the OS, the next thing you need to do is you need to rename the machines. The machines are going to come up with some funky name. You'll see that in the next demo. And then after you rename the machines, you need to build the domain or the domain controller and then join those machines to the domain. In the next demo, what we're going to do is we're going to show how we can tell the domain names are changed, or not the domain names, but rather the host names are changed on the servers. And then we're also going to see the domain get created. And then after that's done, we'll go ahead and we'll join the servers into the domain. We'll just do one, but the process is the same on all. Here we are back on the Power Edge. We're going to log into the domain controller, well, what will be the domain controller, I should say. So I'm just going to type in the password that we chose originally and log in. So here I'm logging in with the local computer administrator account. It's loading up the user profile service. I'm not going to read the rest of the screen. Basically, you know what it's doing. Okay. Now because they're small, it's a lab. They don't have a lot of memory. In a normal environment, this would happen a lot faster. But they're just small lab computers. So actually, you probably could size a domain controller with 2 gigs, but I'd probably go with 4. So here we go. The operating system is coming up for the first time. And hold on to your excitement, kids. It only gets more exciting from here. You see that window faded away like magic. Now, what's going to happen now is the screen's going to change, and we're going to start entering information in to make this guy a domain controller. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to use a command called sysdm.cpl. So sysdm.cpl. That's going to take us to the System Properties Control Panel. What we'll do from there is we'll go ahead and we'll change the name of the computer, because when you create a computer as a domain controller, you're not able to change the name of it after it's been promoted to a domain controller. So after we change the name of it, we'll do a restart, and then after the restart's done, we'll log back in, again with the local administrator account. And then we'll go ahead and we'll add and remove, we'll add features to it and then promote it to the domain controller. So here we are. We'll come down here to the run bar in just a second here. After it gets done with whatever it's doing. So patience is a virtue with these things. My grandmother always said. She didn't know why she was telling me that. I'm sure she had no idea about these. Oh, this is very important too. Make sure you click yes, so this can be discovered. And we're going to go into a little gotcha that sometimes happens with these computers, and we're going to cover that here shortly. But for now, just click yes. We're going to click on run, and we're going to type in that sysdm.cpl. And we can see that this computer has a weird name, the funky name I referred to before. So we're going to click change, and we're going to call this DC2. And there's no domain to join it to right now because we haven't created the domain yet, but eventually we will. Click OK. It's going to tell us we need to restart the computer. And then we're going to go ahead and restart it. And we're going to restart now. And after we get back in here, another thing we're going to do is we're going to set this guy with a static IP. And we can do that now or later. I just prefer to do it in steps. So I'm going to click restart now, pause the video, and then after the machine comes back up, we'll continue. Alright, so here there's the machine, the domain controller is in the process of restarting, and again it's still not a domain controller. The domain has not been created, but we're getting there. We're getting close. So we're just waiting now for the Hyper-V machine to boot back up. Okay, so the machine is starting back up now. I went ahead and added more RAM to it because it just seemed to be taking forever today. So I took it from where we originally had increased it from the 512 megabytes to 2048 megabytes or 2 gigs. I just gave it a little bit more there, so shouldn't be too much longer. It should be back up. We should be able to get in there, give it a static IP, and create the domain. If we don't make a static IP on the server, then the domain will complain about it when we're ready to create the domain controller. So it shouldn't be too much longer here. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and do Control-Alt-Delete. And we'll use that local administrator account once again. And we'll log into it. And then we're going to get going here with setting the static IP and then creating a domain controller. Notice right here, this is going to say network right now. When we're done though, it's going to say wingtip, since that's going to be the name of the domain that we're going to create. Pardon my dog in the background there. She's getting a problem with her heart that makes her want to hack quite a bit. And it's not really hacking, it's just more or less, I don't know, she feels like she has to cough, but as you can see, you can hear she's coughing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change it from dynamic to static. So let's try and see what it's using right now for an IP address. So we're going to click here. We're going to say ipconfig. And enter. And right now we're using. So that's as good as any for a static IP. We're just going to go ahead and get this static IP for this machine. So this is the information that we need for the next part. So we're going to just come over here and we'll say 192.168.1.11 255.255.255 or /24, and then okay. And the DNS server for this. For a domain controller is always going to be itself. So we're going to do the local host right there. And we're going to validate settings upon exit and click that. And there we go. It's just going to check itself, say that they can't find any problems. Now you notice down here it lost network with the internet. That's because we're giving it itself for a domain controller for the moment. So this will change after we've finished. So let's take a look here. We still have this, and if we say ipconfig/all, we can see that this is not DHCP enabled. So in other words, it's not getting a dynamic host name, or a dynamic IP rather. And we can also see that the host name is DC2. Another way to tell the computer name, or rather host name, whatever you want to call it, is to just run set, and it gives you this report here that tells you currently the name of this computer is DC2. So we're not in the domain yet though, even though it says user domain DC2. This is just a local logon that we have going on. So after this network diagnostic check completes, then we're going to go ahead and we'll start making a domain. Okay, so now this is where we're going to make this computer have the ability to become a domain controller. We're going to add Active Directory domain services. That's it. We're not going to add the DNS server or anything right now. We're just going to click Add Features. Okay. Eventually we're going to check here. This is going to have a check in it eventually, but for right now we're just going to add Active Directory. We're going to click Next. We can read this over if we want to. In this case, we're just going to click Next, and we're going to go ahead and say you can restart if you need to, and click Install. And I'm just going to let this install run. I'm going to pause the video, and then we'll come back to it after the installation has finished. Once the installation finishes, it's going to say View Installation Progress, Configuration Needed. We're just going to click Close. Up here you can see a little yellow triangle thing, and it wants to promote this server to a domain controller. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And now we're creating that domain we were talking about. Remember, we already decided in our little guide, oh, you can't really see it here. I'll minimize this for a moment. In our original planning, we decided to call it wingtip.com. So we're going to call the domain wingtip.com. We're going to be adding a new domain to an existing domain. No. We're going to add a domain to an existing forest. No. We're going to add a new forest. Yes. So the root domain is going to be called wingtip.com. I'm going to click Next. We're going to go ahead with this forest functional level and domain functional level. If we were joining to a domain with a lower functional level, we might choose one of the other choices, but we're not doing that, so we're going to go right here. You want to make this kind of hard, something that somebody can't break, so you want to make some sort of hard password there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that right now. And here it is. They both have to match, and then click Next. This is because we don't have DNS configured yet. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to click Next, and it's going to think for a minute, and then it's going to show wingtip right here. Okay, so now we can go ahead and click Next. If we were doing this in a real environment, we'd have another drive on this server, and we would change these locations to the other drive. But since it's just a little home lab, we just leave them alone. And we could look at the script if we want to, but we're just going to click Next. And right now it's going to check and see a few things. Looks like we're all good to go here. It's warning us about some stuff, like it can't find a DNS server. And that's because we haven't made it a DNS server yet. So we're going to go ahead and see what happens if we just install it with all prerequisite checks passed successfully. So we're going to go ahead and click Install, and it's making this server a domain controller. look at that. It's making DNS. It's installing the DNS, that option that we didn't choose before. We're letting the domain controller do that, so things are going to be nice and happy in there. I don't know about you guys, but this is really exciting. Let's create a directory partition. Making a bunch of objects. Setting up a local security authority in registry. Making this computer a domain controller. Hey, what do you know? We've got internet access again. Look at that. Nice. Configuring the DNS server service on this computer. And I thought this was a server. Oh, I guess they're the same thing. You can really start some debates if you make a comment like that around a group of IT people. That's for sure. And we're about to be signed out. Looks like this computer's being restarted. Okay, and that was part of that checkbox we checked originally. Looks like it's successfully configured, and now it's going to restart. When it comes back on, we're going to sign back on with the wingtip administrator, not the local admin, but the domain admin. Okay, guys, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. The domain controller is now created, and it is truly a domain controller. Look at that, wingtip administrator. Oh no, what's the password? Oh, that's right, it's the local admin password that we first made. So let's type it in. Does it work? Moment of truth? Aha, yes. So now we're getting in, and we are logged in as a domain admin. If I open up a command line and check to see who I am, it's going to tell me, hey, you're a domain admin. Well, actually, it won't say that, but it'll show me a domain name in front of it. So we can just check that really quick. And we'll go ahead and go run, get a command prompt, and we'll just type in who am I, maybe. If you can click in there, type, yeah, there we go. Who am I? Yeah, you're a wingtip administrator. Okay. If I type in set, oh, user domain wingtip. It's not DC2. Oh, domain wingtip.com. Nice. So that means we probably have Active Directory users and computers on here too. Let's check. Used to be called Directory Services, something or other. MSC. And let's see. Active Directory users and computers. What do you know? So now what we can do is we can come into the wingtip.com domain, and we can create an OU for SharePoint service accounts. So let's just go new OU, and we'll call it SharePoint service accounts. And click OK. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to make new users. We're going to do a new user for every user in our little list that we made. Remember before, we had this list right here, and we need to make all of these different users for the SharePoint. So I'm not going to sit here and will make you watch me do every single one. I'm going to just say though that this is the account that you're going to use to install SharePoint with, and then these are all the SharePoint accounts down here below. So I'll just go ahead and make this one first, and I'm just going to copy that and copy it straight into my little new user thing here. And maybe I'm going to copy it. Maybe I'm not. Okay, so I'm just going to type it in then. I always feel like an idiot when something doesn't go the way you want it to go. Okay, installer. And then I'm going to copy this though. And paste. And then next. And then I'm going to use a super cryptic password that no one can understand or type. And this password never expires. That's it. And then I'm just going to basically rinse and repeat for every single one of those accounts that are in there. And that's it. So now what we've done is we've made a domain controller. We have created user accounts. There'll be more in here, and I'll show you later in one of the next demos or one of the upcoming demos. And the next thing we need to do is we need to join these other computers into the domain. So here's the app search computer. So let's go ahead and get the sysdm command up. Because remember before in one of the earlier demos we said, hey, we're in the work group. There is no domain because there was no domain. Well, now there is a domain. So now what we're going to do is we're going to join the wingtip domain, wingtip.com. And we're going to click OK. And hopefully what will happen is we'll get a prompt to enter in the password, username and password of the domain. Sometimes though, for whatever reason, there's an issue with the network like this one right here where it's telling us, hey, we can't contact this wingtip.com. It can't be found, right? So we're going to click OK. And we're going to check this right here. And we're going to go down here and see, I'm sorry, we're going to go back to the network connections and check to see what it's got. So let's come in here. And let's see, what do we have in here? So in here we've got this, and we specified the domain controller IP. So possibly we need an SRV record on the domain controller. And let's go see if we can generate that message one more time and take a better look. Details. And so what does it tell us here in the details? I think it's going to say something about an SRV record cannot be found. When it finishes not responding. Yeah, see, it's saying the following error occurred. We queried for this record, but we couldn't find it. So that means we need to come over to the domain controller and open up DNS. So let's go ahead and get DNS up. DNS MGMT seems like a good name for a console. For a managed service console. And so there it is. So come in here, and we'll do is we'll come into this wingtip right here, and we will create a new record. So the other type of record we want to make is a SRV record is what it said. So there it is, and we're going to create that record, and the service is going to be LDAP, and we know that just from having done this before. And the host operating the service is going to be this one. It's going to be dc2.wingtip.com. And we're going to click OK. And that's it. We're going to say done now. And now we're going to come over to this guy again. And we're going to close this and try it one more time. Let's see if we get a better result this time. Hopefully we do. Sometimes these things are a little pain. Same thing. I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're going to change the This is timed out. Queried for LDAP TCP DCMCDS wingtip.com. So let's see. Wingtip. Whoops, wrong. We need to be in the DNS manager. There we go. So it's querying for LDAP, TCP/D. Okay. So open here, and here. Here's one right here. Yep. So that looks like that should be good. LDAP. We'll stop reading LDAP, TCP. Yep. Okay. Let's try and change these network settings here to give it another way to find that guy. Let's put Internet Protocol version 6 on there once. Try it, see if that makes any difference. I don't think it will, but let's give it a shot. Yeah, this isn't my normal job. I'm not normally a network or an Active Directory guy, so yeah, it's going to give us the same problem. So something isn't right here. We're going to try to get rid of this no internet access down here, and then see what happens. Probably the same thing as before. And let's just take a look. Alrighty. You know, oftentimes these little demos, they go so smooth, there's no problems. So when I do them, I try to like, I wish I was saying this was like happening to me on purpose, but it's not. And if it were, then like I'd be probably fix it on the first try. So it's still saying this problem about this query for this record. So what I want to do is I'm going to take that IPv6 off again. I don't think that we need that really. Come in here, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to come here. I'm going to give this another choice right here. Maybe this will help it a little bit. I'm going to say validate settings and click OK. And OK. It's going to do a little validation here. And then, OK. Sure. Apply this fix. Sure. We'll see what it does. Oh, OK. All right. So to enable D. I don't think we want that though. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want that. That basically just made this dynamically controlled. We do not want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and get the IP address again. IP config. And it made it number 12. Okay, let's just see. And it says it's DHCP auto configuration. We don't want this, so we're going to go like here. I'm going to say 192. Oops. 192.168.1.12 and 192.168.1.1. And the domain controller is 192.168.1.11. And we're just going to click OK on that and close. And try to join that domain again. So wingtip, wintip.com. And now if this doesn't work, what we're going to do in the domain is create, hey, there we go. So we just need to refresh. So now, in the wingtip.com, we're going to just type in administrator. Actually, my dog, to tell the truth, she's smoked Camel no filters for most of her life, and that is probably stage 4 carcinoma. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Most dogs don't smoke. So let me type in the password for the domain controller admin, and oops, I'm going to have to pause. Get the call coming in. Here we are on the SQL box, and we're sort of picking up where we left off from the other operation on the app search box, which did actually work. So I'm just going to check really quick and check these settings, see what we have in here. no IPv6, IPv4, and we've got it statically configured. We're using the domain controller IP. We're going to click OK. Close. We're going to come down here. We're getting into the system properties. So we're going to get right in there. And we're going to join the domain. So we're going to type in the wingtip, wingtip.com, and click OK. And there we go. Then we're just going to type in administrator. And we're going to do that password for the domain administrator. We're going to click OK. It's going to tell us welcome to the wingtip.com domain. And we're going to click, it's going to tell us we want to restart. We're going to close this and we're going to restart now. Alright, that's it. So the key takeaways from step 1 was we built the domain. We joined the machines to the domain. We saw a couple of issues there with the SRV record not being created, and then we went ahead and we created that SRV record. And after we had that done, we went in and joined that computer to the domain. We were kind of interrupted by a phone call there briefly, but we were able to go back into the SQL server and see that process happen again. So if you run into the issue, make sure you got that SRV record in your domain. And that's pretty much it. In the next section, we'll be going on to step 2, which will be getting the AutoSP installer set up. Now that we've got our domain built and all of our machines joined in, we're ready to start with getting SharePoint binaries on the servers and the AutoSP installer ready to go. I hope you'll join me in step 2, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.